Welcome to my free, local, and fun monthly newsletter, April 2026. I'm Jen Shenk, Central Mass real estate broker, and I've spent too many hours today screaming into the finish line to get my newsletter published. I always aim to publish the first Saturday of every month, and some months just other things jump in and get in the way, and then here I am Saturday morning. I actually contemplated pushing it out a week, but that gets weird things then happen, and then I only have 3 weeks before the next one comes out, so I just compound the pressure on myself. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to put the time in this morning. It is a holiday weekend, so I'm not hosting any open houses, not because I wouldn't do them, but because buyers don't come to them. I am planning to take the day off and work outside in the yard. We also have 4 family birthdays tomorrow to celebrate during Easter, so I've got a little bit of wrapping, but before that I need to do a little bit of shopping, and no one needs anything, so people will get more things like a gift certificate to get their house washed, or some little tires that represent some money to be put toward tires. That's how it goes when your kids are 20 plus. So my introduction this month, few different things. I happened to drive by my old house in Westminster. I'm not going to say the address, but all the neighbors know. In fact, I was told once that my nickname was Shanks a Lot for selling my house to someone who did not maintain it on its best day. And I know that it's recently been sold, and I drove by the other day and noticed people working outside, and I went and had a great conversation with the people working there. Surprisingly, I didn't have a lot of emotional connection to the house when I was standing there talking with them, and I was just happy to hear a little bit about what they plan to do with it. So I actually have a story this month about a new business out of Ashburnham set up and brainstormed by Tom and Leanne Roy. And funny thing is that it all ties back. I only know of Tom Roy because he grew up in the very same house that I'm just talking about. So I actually had an old Facebook album, photo album called Mainly for Tom Roy, who grew up in this house. So I'm really, really happy to be able to support his business, but more about that later. And this month's newsletter really just has as usual, assortment of things that you might find interesting. I try to have something for everyone. And I like when readers reply to my email. I don't want to call it fan mail, but I love the support. I love hearing people just randomly ask me a question and say, oh, by the way, I love your newsletter. So that's just very, very validating for me. It's just very rewarding to know that people want to help other people, or they appreciate being helped by other people. And I think that's kind of like the theme of this month's newsletter, is people who are doing things to help other people. So without further ado, let's see what I want to talk about real quick. Oh, the Westminster Community Food Pantry. I am not officially involved with the food pantry. Just as hey, I can help. During COVID, what happened was they started to have just drive-through pickup and drive-through drop-off for the Westminster Community Food Pantry, which is located in the Congregational Church on Main Street. They're open on Thursdays if you need food and you live in Westminster. So what happened was during COVID, people were doing drop-offs, people were doing pickups, and I was dropping food off for the food pantry, and there was somebody I knew in line getting food for the food pantry, and I thought, these people, like, it's enough of a slap to their dignity that they need to go to the food pantry to get food for their family. They don't need to see someone they know also there. So it just didn't sit right with me. So I got a big, actually I took it from my own yard, plastic bin that you can see. It's been replaced a few times at this point, but it's right out front of my office at 107 Main Street in Westminster, which is directly to the right of Vincent's Country Store. And what that allowed or created, or I don't even know how to word it, but people can now drop off food for the food pantry whenever they want. So it's not like, oh, it's Thursday, I got to remember to drop it off over at the food pantry. I've got a box out front of my office right underneath the real estate sign, and you can leave non-perishable food items. Please, no tartar sauce in tiny containers that are from a restaurant that should be chilled. I've gotten some really strange things, but anything non-perishable, even in the summer, root vegetables from your own garden. I found out they'll take those. So you can drop them off at any time, and every single week without fail, that bin is at least full. And every time I go into my office, I try, if I have time, to grab everything from the bin, bring it inside. And then on Thursdays, I consolidate it into some boxes and bring it over to the food pantry. And this is a thank you to people, not to me. I'm just the facilitator of it, but I love being that. I love being the connector, the facilitator, the resource person. I would hazard a guess that this initiative, that I don't believe I've ever actually put one thing from my own pantry. Oh wait, there was those weird noodles that my husband bought. Those did go there. I don't believe that I've brought much, other than that one thing, to the food pantry collection bin out front of my office myself, but I think the collective enthusiasm and just like genuine collaborative nature of people, we have probably 10x'd how much food the food pantry gets every single week. Now, every single week I don't necessarily get over there with the food, but there's a cubby in my office that is jam-packed all the time. And every week I try to bring as much as fits in my vehicle over to the food pantry. So if you participate in that, thank you so much. I know there's people who don't want recognition, and I see the same people like on Saturdays. I see like a dad and daughter putting stuff in there every week. I see people who don't necessarily even have a huge amount of means of their own putting in food. And so I love that. And if you can help in any way, I do have a story on my newsletter. You can search my newsletter anytime by going to jenshenk.com. So that's JENSHENK.com/blog. And then there's a search feature. So you could search food pantry. You could search anything you're curious about. Oops, if you didn't hear my belly, apparently I have not prioritized eating yet today. So thank you everybody for the food pantry. I've done a lot of, something in real estate they talk about you should do more of is have more than one stream of income, because when the market changes, you don't want to be caught flat-footed. And that's something that I've sort of had always as a little worry for myself, because I'm not brave enough to be a landlord. And when you're a realtor, real estate broker, you're encouraged to own more properties and be a landlord and do all that stuff. But I'm just not that guy. So that's not my thing. But one thing I've found that I really enjoy doing that brings in a little extra income for me is agent to agent referrals, or just referrals in general. So what that means is that just one example. Right now, I've got somebody relocating for business. They want to move to Charleston, South Carolina. So I get on my computer and I research, or I look in my list of past agents I've worked with throughout the country. I've actually got one right now outside of the country and another one possibly coming outside of the country. And what I do is I do all the detective work. And I find 2 or 3 agents who I feel like those people have their act together. They've got great reviews. They've got a great online presence. I make sure they're using professional photos, because you just don't know. And when I said to these people relocating to Charleston, how are you going to know? How are you going to start your search when you're there? Oh, no, we don't know. We figured we'd go to some open houses and see what we figure out. And now they're like loaded. They're like ready. They're prepared. They've got 3 agents they can talk to before they visit. All of those agents I've already talked with, given a little bit about the client situation. And yes, I'm going to get a small percentage of that agent's commission, but they love it. Those agents love it. It's business they never would have heard of before. So whether you're thinking of moving outside of the area and you need to buy, or you have my neighbor one time reached out to me because she had her aunt's condo in Connecticut, and how the heck would she do that? And she's sorry to bother me, but could I possibly give her some direction? And I thought, this is like a little fun. It's just a challenge for me to find the best agents in an area. So if I can help with that, it is a little bit of an income producer for me, but it's something that I enjoy doing, and I love being a resource for people when they're, not in the area too. So here's my stories this month. So something that you should know about, if you don't already know about the natural disaster in Massachusetts that's rolling out slowly and then not slowly. It's the PYRRHOTITE is the word. It's PYRRHOTITE. When I first saw that, I thought I'm never going to be able to spell that, but now it is committed to memory. So PYRRHOTITE is a mineral that is the sometimes unfortunate aggregate, which is a little rock about the size of a grape, maybe smaller, that gets mixed in the mixing of concrete. And what's been found to have happened since right now, the date we're talking about is 1983 and newer. Homes are at risk of PYRRHOTITE. Infected isn't the right word, or maybe it is. What happens is if PYRRHOTITE was used in the creating of the concrete for your foundation in your home in anything 1983 or newer, could roll back to earlier than 1983, but as of right now in Massachusetts, as of April 2026, the date is 1983 and newer. You could be at risk for an affected concrete foundation, and once you're determined, or you've seen, please go to your basement this morning. Tomorrow's a holiday. Wait till Monday. There's various levels of damage that's visible, and that varies based on how much water you have in your soil beneath your foundation, how much of the aggregate in your concrete foundation might be made up of aggregate that is PYRRHOTITE. A lot of variables, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of houses, a lot more than are known right now, once there's a program in place to have it be either covered by homeowners insurance, which is unlikely, or a means of reimbursement, paying the contractors directly, is instituted by the state. So I've written 3 or 4 stories about this because I feel very passionately about it. As real estate professionals, we need to be aware of it. Home inspectors, some of them aren't yet aware of it. It's that new to the public eye as far as being right out there. It's been my friends Michelle and Karen, who I met through the Crumbling Concrete Foundations, Massachusetts Residents Against Crumbling Concrete Foundations, which who wouldn't be, but they really are, because their foundations need to be replaced. So anyway, after several years and advocating at the State House, and so many people with so many terrible stories, it's very local. And it's not incredibly prevalent now as far as how many we know of. I only know one in Princeton. Last month, Fitchburg was identified as a municipality that has, so Fitchburg got put on the map. There's now 52 towns and cities in Massachusetts that have at least one. Dracut has, I think, 260 because an entire development is affected, a condo development. So the state was appointed an official Crumbling Concrete Foundation Stakeholder Working Group, and they were charged. It's an amazing group of people, people from the concrete industry, people from the banking industry, the Attorney General's office, the Inspector General's office. 2 of my friends who I met through this group, who one has a Crumbling foundation, one who's already replaced hers. There's a dog trying to get in right now. I'll let her in. Nope, that was a child trying to get in. So anyway, this group was charged with coming up with some proposed solutions for what to do. How many of us could financially handle the news? Your foundation is failing. Eventually your house will collapse, because once your foundation has failed, your house doesn't have a foundation to stand on. And your insurance isn't going to cover it. And could be $200,000. And also you can't live in the house at the same time. And that $200,000 doesn't cover if your basement was finished, or your driveway gets wrecked when they're doing all the work, or your landscaping that gets pulled out, or your patio, or your decks, so many things. So it's a huge deal. And if I just encourage people, do not put your head in the sand. This will affect you in one way or the other, because if your neighbor has the problem and they go for an abatement off of their tax bill, which is happening in Rutland, your tax bill should go up. That's all I can figure. So anyway, so I have a story about that. It's not so much a story. It's really, I've taken the report that was issued in March by the Crumbling Concrete Foundation Stakeholder Working Group, and I've simply republished what they published. I've got a link to their specific report, and I've just copied and pasted the wording from their report. This will get you up to speed. Also in this story are the first 3 or 4 stories I've written about PYRRHOTITE over the past few years. It's not something that's going to go away. it's going to get worse and we need a solution. So I've read through their report and I look forward to going through it in more detail. All right, so more lightweight stories. So had somebody reach out to me who got an introductory, a welcome letter. I send welcome letters when anyone moves into 7 specific towns that are right around me that I sell a lot of houses in. And this nice person basically said, we moved here, we got your letter, you said reach out if you could be a resource, and we have a small business and it was based in the town we lived in before, and we're having a little bit of a struggle now that we're in this new town. Can you recommend how we could possibly build our business, social media, more than just Facebook, what we could do? So that really kind of like spoke my language, because I do love to support local businesses. So I put together a story that is things you could do to start to increase your visibility about your own business, your small business, whether it's service or items or what your business is. And then I want people's feedback, because if somebody says, look, I really want to know how to make a Google business page, or I don't know how to make a website, or what else do people would say? I don't even know how to make a Facebook business page, or how do you use Canva? I'm happy to. I've got a wonderful office space in Westminster directly to the left of Vincent's Country Store. I'm happy to find an expert who can come in and teach a group of us something. So if something in that story speaks to you, let me know. And I cannot talk about small businesses without mentioning one of my favorite small businesses. Now, I'm not going to bring you into my dollhouse because you're going to think I'm weird, but I am about to turn 56 and I have a dollhouse, and my getaway small business, my husband and my son found this business for me in Amherst, New Hampshire. It is called Earth and Tree. And when I go to Earth and Tree, which I went last week with my friend Jen, who is new to dollhouses, it's just an escape. It's so relaxing. And I always have gift cards for there because that's what people get me as gifts. It's Earth and Tree in Amherst, New Hampshire, if you're wink, wink, so inclined. But really, my husband knows it's a safe bet. My kids know it's a safe bet. My mother knows I love that place. But look at this adorable little chair. And then as I was leaving, I had money left on my gift card. I got this washer and dryer. Look at this thing. It's a top loader. It's got an agitator. Like, who even knew? But you know what? If you have a hobby and there's a store related to your hobby, like 30 miles from you, like you might not know it. I've lived here my entire life. And I think that store, Earth and Tree, has been there half my life. I did not know until my husband and my son found it. So you probably don't need the miniature Maytags. And this chair is not going to be yours for relaxing on Easter, but my dollhouse people are very excited. And actually that puts a tiny little star next to that. I have to say, I don't actually have people for my dollhouse because that would be weird. This right here is about decorating. You can see I like decorating. This is the couch. Most of the pillows are not on this couch anymore. Jay gets irritated when he'll come out to visit me in my office. And he's like, there's nowhere for me to sit. And I say, well, I got to get some more listings then because these pillows need to be on somebody else's bed. So anyway, this story is about let's growing your business. Let's do this together. So I encourage people to support local businesses, send in information about local businesses you like, because I also started doing a new story theme. I'm going to do it every month, committed right there. And it's either a new business profile or a business profile. The new business profile, basically, I work with business owners to write their own stories. Whether they write a story and send it to me and they say, like, I'm not a writer, can you fix this? I'll fix it. Or I have a list of like 30 questions and say, just answer 5 or 6 of them. I'll write a story based on that. So my first story is about Tom and Leanne Roy. Tom Roy was in a devastating accident during COVID. And it was life-changing, and he found himself isolated, just really, really a lot of introspection, and he wanted to turn it into something good. So what he has created is something called Freedom Provider. And you might not know by the name of the business exactly what it is, but once I tell you what it is, you're going to say, oh, that's actually a perfect name for it. So what Tom's business does is provide freedom for people who are trapped in their house. Maybe they've had an injury, maybe they've had an illness, maybe they need to get to dialysis, or maybe they just want to go to the beach for a couple hours. So Tom's business, he's got a great website. You can book times. You can find out more. He provides private personal transport, and I love this one thing that he said in his story, and it was basically, it said, "Don't quit, not today. Maybe tomorrow, but not today." So I kind of look at that as like, well, don't quit, not today, maybe tomorrow. But then if you said that to yourself tomorrow, it's not tomorrow. The next day is tomorrow. So I really like the hope that this brings, but also I know of people, I see it on Facebook, I see it on Nextdoor. You know, I got to find a transport service my husband needs to go to treatments twice a week, and you know, we don't have local family. I would 100% reach out to Tom through, you know, when you see the story that he and I put together, there's links on there. You can reach out, hit him up with questions. And Tom, if you're seeing this, please share your story, because I love it and I want people to support your new local business. A not brand new local business, but one that has been catching my attention is Kelly's Brook Farm. Now, I'm going to show you this empty vase. She makes these beautiful mache vases. There's nothing in it, but tomorrow's Easter, and one of my sons, I always say like my son this, my daughter this, but for those of you who know me, I have 3 of each. So it's not like I have this like one son that does a shit ton of stuff, or this one daughter who's like, wow, that kid does a lot. There's 3 of each. So if I just say it, I'm probably not going to say their names, but just know that, you know, your kid isn't an underachiever. I just have a quantity of them. So it sounds like this one kid is doing a ton of stuff, but this one kid lives near Kelly's Brook Farm on, what is she, 65? I know it's 65. Is it? Oh shoot, you're gonna have to look in the story. It's either Oakmont Ave. I don't think it's North Common Road yet. I think it's not Bacon Street. I think it is. I think she is 65 Bacon Street, but it's 65 something, and I should have known before I started talking about the address. But if you leave the center of Westminster and you leave between the library and the pharmacy, and you head toward the Painted Bridge, toward the high school, you will see Kelly's Brook Farm right near the end of Overlook Road, right there. There's your reference point. And it's very unassuming, but when it's open, it's adorable. And I've got some pictures in the story. Kelly helped me write the story. Kelly largely wrote the story, which is wonderful. And this is just something that, just one of many things she has. She's beautiful flowers, but these are vases made out of mason jars. And I hope that the son who has to drive by Kelly's is looking at my newsletter today, and maybe some flowers come tomorrow with Easter. So that's Kelly's Brook Farm. My lifetime of clutter stories have really resonated with a lot of people, myself included. And last month I received an email from a reader. I love to get these. They always start or end with, "I love your newsletter," which is like so heartwarming to me. But this woman asked about, you know, what do I do with my old phones, my old Blackberries, my old Palm Pilots? Luckily, I have one of everything and have not decluttered things. But this is one of my original Blackberries, which is so tiny and impossible to use. I clearly remember going into the AT&T store with my Blackberry once and talking to Dan, the manager. And he said, "Here, when I'm, you know, waiting for another customer, whatever, you got a half hour, I'm going to give you my iPhone." That's apparently very trusting. "I'm going to give you my iPhone, and I want you to try this, because this is the next thing, and you're going to love this." And I literally was like, I want to die. This is terrible. I gave it back to him, and I just said, you know, I'm never going to have one of these. Now, I've had an iPhone now for a couple decade and a half. But anyway, this is a Blackberry, and it's in my house, and I haven't decluttered it. Why not? Why would I? I'll make the kids deal with this. But anyway, this month's story is about what to do about both electronics, like my Dyson stick vac. Nothing lasts forever, but my Dyson stick vac, the battery died and I need to replace it. Well, now I've got this thing that looks like a battleship, and it's got to be a pound or 2, probably 1. And I didn't know what to do with it. I know that throwing it in the trash is probably frowned upon. And in this case, there's no private data other than I don't vacuum often enough. But there is private data on here. And so I'd love to see what it is, actually. So anyway, I wrote a story about how to deal with personal electronics and how to declutter them. If you haven't read my other stories yet about lifetime of clutter, my first one started with sporting goods equipment, and then last month it was about paper. And I'm going to have one every month until I run out of clutter in my own house. Quick commercial interruption. Village Auto Wash is the touch-free car wash in the center of Westminster. I'm involved in the marketing of that and the customer service, not because I really want one more hat, but because design and visuals are my, like, it's what I am good at. And I like to do the social media for it. And the owners asked me if I would help them with that. So I've been using my photographer, Adore Photography, who does all of my real estate videos and photography. They help me kind of seasonally of when I have an idea for a video. So this will be the last time you see the Your Car Needs a Bath with all the snow on it video, but I just wanted to share it one last time and remind people that if you go to the car wash at least twice a month, a wash club would be, it would save you some money. It's just basically the cost of 2 washes a month, and you can go every day if you want. Not promoting it as a business, just promoting it as something else that I do. So there's that. For the high schooler who has no idea of what they want to do, which that definitely would have been me. When I switched to Monty Tech in 11th grade, because you could do that at the time, I basically took the shop that was available. I wanted to be in food trades, which is now called something much prettier called like culinary, but it was called food trades when I was there in 1986. And the shop I picked was graphics, which is so funny how it's worked out because graphics is such a huge part of my life. And my son Adam, there's a name, he also went to Monty Tech. So we graduated 30 years apart, 1988 and 2018, both in the same shop, which was graphics. Well, Adam is now at WPI, and they are putting on a free STEM day. Now, if you don't know what STEM is, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. I would not participate in the math part of it, so I would go to STE day. But anyway, they are, Adam and the WPI Washburn shops are, and I'm just going to say an all-encompassing WPI, is putting on a free STEM day for high schoolers who just might have a curiosity of what they might want to go into, for the future. Adam didn't start out thinking he would be in materials engineering. He didn't start out with that at all, but he just kind of naturally, like, I remember going to the Museum of Science when he was very little, and all of a sudden he was disappeared. And I was like, oh no, where'd Adam go? And meanwhile, if he's kid 5, I had a couple others to watch. And there he was, like, staring with his hands up against this huge glass thing, this like Rube Goldberg, like gears and balls and pulleys and like a game of mousetrap, basically. And he was staring at it, and then he disappeared again, and he was staring at it. And I'd look back and say, maybe he knew something we didn't know, because this wasn't the path I thought he'd be on. But I love the idea of exposing kids to things that they might not necessarily think is for them, but that it could speak to them in some way. So if you have a high schooler who's like sitting around playing video games or doing nothing, or you're at the dinner table and you're like, I want to ask, like, hey, what do you might want to do? This is he probably could get an excuse day from school, or at least part of it. Some schools use this STEM day as a field trip for their tech ed students. So if you have any questions about that, there's a story about it. There's a brochure graphic in there and a little bit of a story. So check that out if you've got somebody who's feeling a little bit uncertain. Real estate market is hopping. It is so busy right now. I am keeping up perfectly fine, and I love what I do. And there's just a lot going on right now. I'm talking with a lot of sellers right now. I've got just a sneak peek list. There's no pictures. There's no addresses. I'm not giving anybody's private information out at this point. But I just, in the newsletter, just highlighting the next 7 or 8 listings I have coming on, the wide range of prices, mostly Princeton and Westminster. I definitely work throughout Central Mass. It just happens to be that my next 7 or 8 are in Princeton and Westminster, and a wide variety of styles, prices, and nobody's got a set date. Well, some of them have a set date, but I'm not going to say they're set dates. But if you're looking, or somebody who's looking, share my newsletter, because I am going to continue to include upcoming listings as sneak peeks. And also, I want you to look at the listings that you missed. There are 3 or 4 that weren't even publicized last month's newsletter in March, but they're already have been on the market, videos, photos, floor plans, you name it, and are already under agreement. So as you're scrolling through my newsletter and you see some pretty houses that are already under agreement, click on the links and watch the videos. I pay a lot for those, and I want people to just see what a great job my photographer does. Townwide cleanups. We used to participate in this a lot when the kids were little. I remember the big score one year was somebody found a animal skull and brought it home. And a lot of times, mainly what we find are nips. There's a lot of junk out there. People are jerks. They throw stuff out of their cars. A weird psychological thing is so many times when you find a specific type of nip, you know that within like 10 feet of it, they'll be all the same. And I think that has to do with people's habits, which those habits involve littering, drinking, and driving. There's all a bunch of bad habits, and I try not to judge people, but if you're throwing trash out of your car and you're drinking and driving, I'm going to judge you. So the, basically what those things are, according to a person at a package store who I talked with once, are people who grab the milk, the bread, and the Fireball. They drink the Fireball, they fling it out the window at whatever their location is to when they've started and ended the Fireball. Resource stories. So my resource stories are, where to do something, how to get your burn permit, which it is still burning season. So get on it, because today might be the first day that we burn because it's just been so snowy. But my resource stories are things in your area. If you want to know about town-wide yard sales, I've started to update that story, but I'm going to publish it next month because it'll have more up-to-date information, or how to register your dogs. That's past now. But then sometimes my resource stories are items. Like, for instance, this isn't really the ears of a German Shepherd behind me. It is my Ryobi Lopper, which I believe I've written a story about. This thing is one of my favorite things. So look at the size of this. It's hard to tell, but I would say it's like a good 3/4 or an inch. So you've got a safety on here. I love my Ryobi tools. Look at this. This thing, now my dogs are going to come running because they think that means we're going outside to lop. But if you don't want to get the chainsaw out, you can use this Ryobi Lopper. It's just amazingly effective. Use caution, but I love it. I keep saying I have friends who are interested in it and I want to lend it out, but I don't. Very popular stories. Most popular story from last month was Holy Electric Bill. My electric bill came in at over $700 last month, and after I died a lot inside and then got angry at everybody and then went and shut everything off, and I really drilled into some things, my bill made sense. I'm happy to report my bill is down to $491 this month, but that's still awful. So you can see in the photo of my newsletter introduction, we now have a lot of nightlights. So there's that. And then my story about the Snowbound Club, which was just a nostalgia from my childhood growing up in Baldwinville and my parents being some of the founders of the Snowbound Club. I've got some old photos in there. So if you know anything about the Snowbound Club, I'd love to hear from you. Google reviews. I have a goal of 70, nope. I have a goal of 100 Google reviews this year, and I am at 74. So in any story or on the newsletter, or if you just search my name, you'll see how many Google reviews I have, 74 right now. And thank you amazingly to someone who, wait, let me finish that thought. If you would, we've worked together and you don't mind writing a Google review, I would love that. Google very much pays attention to real valid local people, not even local, real valid people who write reviews, and people who write a fair number of reviews who then write reviews about others. It helps with the Google juice. And speaking of that, I obviously I'm on video right now. I am not comfortable, but I'm trying to get more comfortable at things. YouTube. I have a YouTube channel now, and I am not kidding you. I had a call from a lady who said to me this month, and Maria, you win the prize for this month's surprise smile. Maria called me from the other side of the country and said, hey, I discovered your YouTube channel and I binge watched your videos. And I don't think she's creepy. I'm just really happy that now I'll be working with her and her husband to help them find a home here in Massachusetts. And I love that she thought enough to reach out after she found my YouTube channel. Now, what I do is when I have a listing, I walk around the listing and I talk about the listing, but I also walk around the town and give you a little bit of information about the town, about Central Mass in general. And they're just very off the cuff. You know, if I need to remember how to pronounce, like I did one on Ashburnham and I needed to check to see how to pronounce the King of Bhutan for my Ashburnham town center walk around. Some things I do have to look up, but in general, your broker, your agent, your realtor should be able to walk around the town that your house is in and comfortably talk about education, recreation, businesses, government, history, proximity to transit routes, all the things. Like your real estate agent needs to know that to best represent what they are selling, which is your product. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please share my newsletter either by forwarding it to a friend by email. There's buttons for that in the newsletter, or if you see my newsletter on my Facebook, anywhere on Facebook, share it from there. Just help me build my newsletter base. I've got over 3,000 local subscribers now, and it's very validating to me that this is a way for me to stay connected with people and in a very genuine way that's helpful. So I love that. I think that's it. So send me everybody you know. If you want to meet and not want any pressure about now's the time to sell, I can happily do that for you. Please participate in any of the townwide cleanups. Read older stories on my newsletter. If you have a topic you'd like to know more about, search it on my newsletter if it doesn't exist and it's not super controversial or sad, or I just try to keep it lightweight, and I'm just happy to promote local businesses, be a resource for people. And I'm happy right now that I didn't push this month's newsletter off to next week, because now I can go outside with my lopper and my tractor and work outside in the yard, then figure out what people are getting for their birthdays tomorrow, wrap some gifts that I don't yet have, and then make pasta for beef stroganoff, which is what we're going to have for Easter. That and chicken pot pie. If nothing else, I am a very good cook. If you want my beef stroganoff recipe, I wrote it in my newsletter last month. Just search the word beef. If you can spell stroganoff, go for it, but beef will get it for you. If I can help with anything, let me know. All my contact information is below, and I'm happy to help with anything I can, including send me ideas for next month's newsletter stories, and I will see what I can do for you. Have a great day. Happy Easter.